Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Matthew.
Episode 334, recorded for December 9th, 2025. Kube Cuddle, goodbye. AWS makes Kubernetes conversational. Which, I'll kind of miss Kube Cuddle, I guess. Sadly.
I won't miss people pronouncing it Kube Cuddle instead of kubectl like it's supposed to be.
I'm just doing it to troll
I
you.
know you
mostly.
are.
It's been how's it going for
and
years
there
now.
we go again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we really should just call the show Amazon announces a ton of AI shit.
Yeah.
Reinvent. But that's not what we're going to call it because we're responsible podcasters here. But yeah.
Questionable.
Reinvent happened last week. Sorry to say, happy to say, I don't know. It was good. I watched all the keynotes today on 2x speed, so I'm now fully caught up on the things other than Swami's. I couldn't get through more than half. Sorry, Swami. Love you. Pieces.
I tried 3x on Swami's. That's as far as I got. I got 45 minutes in, and I still couldn't do it anymore. But
yeah, like it's so much ML. So much ML. But I was mostly impressed that this is the 14th reinvent because I feel like I've been doing cloud for 100 years at this point. So the fact that it's only the 14th was sort of shocking to me.
It is shocking.
Yeah, so let's get right into the thing that matters most, which is who won the reInvent prediction show. And so we're going to cover these, and then we have a bunch of news. We're not going to cover everything today because there was literally hundreds of announcements over the last weekend. We cannot possibly cover all of them unless this would be a 17-hour show.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you guys all make it through an hour-long show of us talking. So definitely not going to try for a really, really long show on everything. But if there's something you guys wish we talked about or you have questions about, please ping us at thecloudpod.net. You can email Justin or the pod there, or you can hop on our Slack channel and just say, hey, you didn't talk about this announcement, and we will save it for next week, and we will answer any announcements, which is also my cheat way of saying, well, anything I should have covered that I thought was interesting that I found later, which is what happens every year, I can now say, someone asked me a question about.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And we'll actually do research and, be prepared for
Yeah, be prepared. It's good. So Jonathan's not here, but he was first up in the draft order for us, and so he nailed a Saturday announcement like out of the park, like blew up the internet when they announced it. And that was that they announced a feature called where is it? Lambda Managed Instance, which lets you run Lambda on your own EC2 with AWS management. And the reason why you would do that is so you can get access to GPUs most likely, which is really what he said was serverless GPU support or an extension of Lambda or a different service. It's about time we have a serverless GPU inference capability. And so if that had been said during a keynote, which it was during DeSantis's, but it had already been spoiled on Saturday, he would have got a point. So he's not here to argue about it. So no point for Jonathan.
For you. Yeah.
Next up, Jonathan had AI agent with goals, instructions that can run when they need to, periodically or always, and perform an action, like an agentic platform that runs agents. And they announced both Bedrock Agent Core and Kiro autonomous agents, and something also with Q, which I lost interest in when I was trying to read it. But yeah, lots of agent things, so I definitely feel he got a point for this one. So 1 point to Jonathan. And then the final one, Warner will announce his last keynote, and he will retire. He did retire from keynotes. He did say this, he will no longer do keynotes, that he has decided to step down from keynotes to allow younger voices at AWS to take the stage and become more visible in the organization, which is a nice succession planning move. But he did not say he was retiring. He specifically said that in the thing. So Jonathan gets no points, although I will give him a half point.
I think we still give him a point. I think we give him a point. He nailed that it was going to be his last keynote.
Well, we did do research after the fact
keynotes.
That that we found that he had done an interview a few weeks ago. Now Jonathan swears he did not see the interview beforehand where he alluded to this fact. But I don't know. He said retire, and I feel like retire is the key part of that because him doing his last keynote, I don't even know if I would have cared about that as a point. But the retire part was the part that I was most intrigued about in his prediction. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter. You can give him the point; he'll still lose. Yeah, so that's
the only part that I'm okay with.
That's part of the reason I'm fighting for him here. Yeah, I'm cheating. I know the next step, so I felt like we should have a little bit of argument on the podcast. So
sure.
Standing up for him.
He's not here to defend himself, though. So.
I thought Warner said he was taking a new role as well that was going to have different responsibilities, but
He did specifically say that as his final keynote, and he clarifies that he is not leaving Amazon and still has things to do, indicating he's stepping away from the keynotes to allow young, fresh new voices to share their stories. But there's nothing about taking on a new role within Amazon. He's continuing in his current role as CTO. So, okay, now we've clarified that. No point for Jonathan. No point for Ryan.
Yeah, I was trying. It's arguing for Jonathan, but
yeah. I mean, if it's a different role, I would maybe agree with you more. But Ryan did quite well this time. New Trainium 3 chips. He also said maybe new Graviton chips and Inferentia because he knew how to structure this bet right. And so he not only did get Trainium, he also got a new Graviton chip. The Trainium 3 Ultra servers were announced in Garmin's keynote, and then the DeSantis keynote, they announced the new Graviton chips. And they brought out a really nice shiny rack for Ryan in Garmin's presentation to show you what a Trainium 3 Ultra server rack looked like. And it was very pretty and very clean cable management. So A+ on the cable management.
I love it.
Love a good cable management. Ryan then predicted that they will expand the number of models in or via Bedrock, and they announced that they had doubled the number of models and announced Gemma, Minimax M2, NVIDIA Nemotron, Mistral Large, and Mistral 3. I feel that's a firm vote to Ryan. I mean, technically, those doubling the models happened way before reInvent, but hey, Gemma is a big one, and Mistral, those are two very large, big models that people care about. So I think that's definitely a point. You then said you hoped for a refresh to Amazon organizations, which you did not.
No.
And there's even a section where you could have got it, which is, we'll talk about that in a second. But I thought it might happen still for you. The last 10 minutes of the presentation, I was like, it could happen. My score here, I got a new Nova model and Sonic with multimodal. I got a Light, a Pro, a Sonic, and a new model called Omni for multimodal. So I was very happy about that, all in Garmin's keynote. I said they would announce a partnership with OpenAI likely on stage. They did not have OpenAI on stage, nor did they have a partnership. They did say that Amazon and OpenAI are running on top of the brand new EC2 Ultra servers that Ryan predicted earlier. It would technically be a half point, but I'm not giving it to myself. But so I don't need it. So there you go. And then my final one was advanced agentic AI capabilities for Security Hub. Basically, automate the SOC teams. And they announced as part of the general availability of Security Hub, new AWS Security Agent, which is exactly what I was looking for. So that is a solid point for me.
Totally.
Matt had a rough.
I don't want to talk about it.
Matt did
I don't
not
want to
get
talk about it.
Matt unfortunately did not get a model router to route LM queries to different AI models. He did not get a well-architected framework expansion, although it was mentioned in many keynotes, well-architected frameworks. And he did not get a new replacement for Cognito. So, which I was actually in a different conversation with AI the other day, and I said, I don't want to use Cognito, it's a piece of crap. And it challenged me, like, why do you think it's a piece of crap? Explain it to me. And I was like, oh, God. So even AI is trying to pitch me into Cognito. So that takes us to our tiebreaker, because both Ryan and I are tied at 2 points each. Maybe technically Jonathan's tied at 2 points as well, debating how you want to see that. And so the tiebreaker was, how many times did they say the word artificial intelligence or AI in the keynotes? Matt Garmin said it 77 times in his keynote. He definitely beat everyone else, which I was shocked about, because I thought Swami would take him. That was not the case. DeSantis' keynote had 31, Swami had 41, and Werner had 31 for a total of 183. And on Price is Right rules, that means I take the win for reInvent with 160 was my guess. And I was only off by 23. So not bad.
Yeah, no, I think definitely no
I will say
challenge
we should have done agent.
I mean, agent would be, maybe that's what we need to do next year. I will note it.
Next year's agent.
Yes, I will definitely note that for next year. I think agent would be a good one as well. So, because I do feel like we've kind of put AI and artificial intelligence to death at this point. So, we did get some honorable mentions as well. Marketplace for AI work. There was definitely a marketplace for that, for like agents you could basically download or select and add into your Bedrock. There was a Q developer with autonomous agents. There was a next generation silicone discussion for combined TPU competitor, i.e. GPU Graviton Learning. So they basically said that things are optimizing for in Trainium, and that they are, they basically alluded to they are working on something there. So that's great. So I will pat myself on the back for winning this one again. Because
show off.
But it was impressive feat. We were a three-way tie. I think it's the first time we've ever done that well on predictions.
No, definitely.
So, I think we all should be winners.
Yeah.
And I will
Except
give up
me.
my win. Yeah. Except for Matt, who lost. And also lost Azure, which was sad.
Yeah.
I won Google last year.
That is,
you did win
that
Google.
is true,
Yeah,
which
you
is
did.
funny.
Yeah, you did, which is funny. So in the cloud, you don't work in every day. You have better
Yeah.
visibility on
Mhm.
than the cloud that you used to work in all the time and the one you work in every day.
Yeah.
I will say
That's
a
good.
lot of these things are easier to get right just because they're a little bit behind over, the other cloud platforms in terms of AI. And so you can kind of stick to whatever everyone else has already announced a little bit, and then, or just pick the gaps in their current services. So I do feel like it's a little bit easier these days when they're all releasing kind of the same sort of, ecosystems around agentic.
I mean, they all want foundational models. They all want agents. They all want agent orchestration. So yeah, it was probably one of the easier ones to do if you've been paying any attention to the market whatsoever in the last 6 months. But overall,
We were close.
I'm pretty pleased.
We were close on cost savings for networking. It was just wrong service. It
Wrong
was cost
service,
savings for databases.
Yeah, which is huge. So, all right. Well, let's talk about the keynotes themselves. So Matt Garman started out the week with his keynote. I struggle with his keynotes because I feel like I want to really like him, and I just for some reason don't like him because I think he was in sales, and I think it just exudes out of him that he's a former sales guy. I mean, he's also a former engineer, so like I should like him more than I do. But it was I felt like he was lacking kind of a narrative through line through his presentation. Like it just sort of was kind of like it meandered around. It was unfoundational, and then it had a customer out for 10 minutes, and then I lost the thread of where we were at, and then he came back around. I don't know. What did you guys think of Matt?
I think his presentation's getting better. I think even just like his vocal patterns, I feel like are used to be a lot worse, and they're getting there's more ups and downs. There's more intonation in it, where before I felt like it was a little bit more flatlined when he was presenting. Versus like if you ever see like an interview with him, he's a lot better when he's not just straight presenting. It feels like.
Yeah, he's definitely better one-on-one in like podcasts. Listen to him on or interviews. He's definitely better in those, in my opinion.
And I think that skill set is slowly moving into his keynote. So I will say it was one of his better ones. But the marketing team, I agree. I felt like I got lost in where we were going. I really liked the last kind of funness of the last 10 minutes, which I know we're gonna get to later on. But like the first hour and 15 minutes just felt like I was lost on a Chutes and Ladders board almost.
It's funny because I wouldn't really think about that as like something that Andy Jassy brought. I would think that the thematic sort of keynote sort of structure, I would think would be marketing or, like a lot of different players in that. But it has been missing in all of Garmin's keynote. So it is sort of interesting there, but I wonder how these actually
It was interesting because Matt just alluded to it. So it basically, he was on stage for 2 hours ish, somewhere 2 hours and change. And it was long. And, but then in the last 15 minutes, he basically says, we know you care about non-AI things too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, you heard my survey comments.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he says, I'm going to do 25 exciting new announcements in 10 minutes with a counter. And I basically had to get through all of these. And he got through 25 items very quickly. And I'm like, okay, you're so close. Like, I mean, like, the 10-minute, the way he structured that was great. So it was like, it was quick. It was, fast. Like he actually added a little detail. It wasn't just like, oh, here's a new instance and then move on. It was like, he told you a little bit about it. Like, so it was enough to like wet your whistle, which is why I've stole it aimlessly now for the next part of our show, where we're going to basically do the same thing for all the reInvent announcements because we can't cover them all, but we at least have a little bit of a highlight of each of them. So in that 25 announcements in 10 minutes, he announced the X8 instance, the instance I'm now nicknaming the Elon instance because it sounds like his son's name. The C8A instance, the C8 INE instance, the M8 AZN instance, the M3 and M4 Max instances, the Lambda durable functions, 50 terabyte S3 objects, S3 batch ops for 10x faster, intelligent tiering for S3 tables, automatic application for S3 tables, S3 access points for FSx NetApp, S3 vectors, GPU index for Amazon OpenSearch, Amazon EMR serverless with no storage provisioning, guard duty to ECS and EC2, Security Hub is now generally available, Unified Data Store and CloudWatch, increases storage for SQL and Oracle RDS, optimizes CPUs for RDS for SQL Server and SQL Server development support, and database savings plans, all within 10 minutes, which that could have been a whole keynote and I would have been ecstatic.
Yeah, right.
So I like, I mean, 2 hours on the AI stuff and then 10 minutes on this. I like, okay, I appreciate you did it. I'd like a little more balance still. maybe we could do an hour and a half of AI and then 30 minutes of this, or maybe we could do it 50-50. And because the reality of it too is then you have Swami come out and he talks a lot of AI and ML.
Yep.
You have Peter come out. He also talks a bit of AI, but more about the CPU and the training. And he talks about like AI, some of the AI Nova Forge, which lets you, basically help create foundational models. So there's plenty of opportunities for AI throughout all the keynotes. And so I don't necessarily know that he needs to do all the announcements, but like it sort of reminded me a little bit of the year that Andy Jassy did the song thing where the songs reminded him of different features.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a nice narrative through line that Andy did on that. So A+ for the 10 minutes. Overall, his presentation was a little weird narratively, but I agree with you. I think his presentation skills are getting better. So overall, I would give him a solid B+ on his keynote. You?
Yeah, on the balance stuff, I'm not sure. Like, look, I feel like we talk about, this is called the Cloud Pod, but 50% what we talk about, probably 70% what we talk about is really AI at this point.
Only because it's all they announce.
Right.
I'm not disagreeing with you about the fact, but, it's just where the market is.
It's clearly what the investors want to hear. It's clearly what customers are asking them about. They are definitely, dealing with the customer side of it. And I just, it's not what I fell in love with AWS about. And so I want more of the balance. I hear you that you have, I would have been disappointed if it didn't have a Nova 2. I would have been disappointed if they didn't do agents because everyone else is doing it. And so it would be like you're lacking what your competitors are doing. So but nothing they announced in any of those things was like amazingly better. It was like, it didn't have to spend a lot of time in some of those areas.
But I would say they spent 10 minutes, they announced 25 announcements. So like, okay, a little bit of rapid fire here. I get it. It was fun. But in 110 minutes, let's say, of the rest of it, he announced 10, maybe 15 things. Granted, there's the customer stories, how they're doing stuff. He touches upon features, but like, it felt like they just dragged on things on the early part where, which was interesting. And they always do the customers things, which I'm not in love with sitting there watching. And I'm not going to lie, fast forward through half of them. But on the flip side, it just felt like it needed a little bit more balance. So like, I still remember when they announced like time series database and whatnot, like it was like a 5-minute segment about the build up to this and how they presented it, not 20 minutes to build up to a feature release. And that's where I feel like it's still missing for me.
Makes sense. I mean, I'm going to agree to disagree. But I get what you're
I want more infrastructure stuff still. Like, that's where we all came from. That's what we like about it. But yes.
I mean, even if you were like, look, okay, Garmin and Swami are going to do nothing but AI and the stuff, that's cool. Then just like Peter do all the infrastructure stuff. That's fine too. I'm okay with that. Which also, I will point out that we started with Matt this year because they kicked Peter off of Monday Night Live, moved him to Thursday morning in Warner's slot, then moved Warner to an afternoon slot, which I assume that was because DeSantis was tired of missing Monday Night Football. So I'm not really sure how that happened, but it was nice to see him in a different time zone too. But he did mention he couldn't serve beer, at a morning keynote, which is disappointing. So it's fair.
I assume they also did it as to kind of like segue Warner out a little bit.
Well, and also I think what, at least what my historical knowledge has been, is pretty much after Thursday's keynote, people kind of started bailing out. And so by moving Warner into an afternoon keynote slot before reInvent, maybe people would stick around longer. But again, I don't know if that would have changed my calculation on that, but I could see people doing it. All right, next one was Swami's keynote. Any feedback on Swami and his keynote?
No, I did not
Other
watch
than he's a little dull. I watched it at 2x and I could only get through half of it. And it's not because he's not a good speaker. He's a good speaker. He does a good job. He had a good narrative to it, but I just don't care about what he's presenting about in any way, shape, or form, and I just can't do it.
I haven't watched one of his in years because I tried to struggle for, and I felt like I wasn't getting it, and it felt like the content, and there's a lot of specific ML terms and stuff that if you're not in that heavy data science space aren't. But
it's one of those, like, if we were at the house drinking, like we used to do when we were at reInvent and we just watched the keynotes from the house with beer, where we could like mercilessly mock it as it went through. Like we probably watch it and enjoy it.
That'd be fine.
Or if we were doing the live streaming where we live streamed over the keynotes like we did that one year, maybe that would be fun and we would enjoy that.
Yeah.
But,
just watching it by myself. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I tried 3x today and I still couldn't get through it. Like you said, it's not that it's bad. It's just the content is rough for me.
Yeah. And if we had someone who's really into ML, I mean, if Jonathan was maybe here, maybe he would have enjoyed it more. I don't know. But, it's definitely a possibility. So, all right, we'll move on around to the song. I give him a solid B. Like, again, it's not him. It's not the presentation. It's me. I acknowledge
it's not
bias.
you. It's me.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's me. Peter DeSantis had a great, infrastructure-based talk. He didn't do, the history of computing kind of thing he's done in the past, but it was a little bit more, he picked up a little bit of the Werner things. He kind of blended it with his kind of own style. Overall, I enjoyed it quite a bit. He talked about Graviton, the new Graviton chips. He did his normal dog and pony about Nitro, why Nitro is so important. And, it was a little bit of history, a little bit of cool technology, a few announcements sprinkled in there, or not really announcements, they were already announced earlier in the week, but, mentions on stage about some of those things, which was nice. And overall, I think he's one of the better presenters at reInvent every year at this point. I'd say solid A for Peter and his the folks he had on stage.
Yeah, his presentations are always my favorite. It has been for a long time. But it might just be because it is like you said, it is the part of AWS that I fell in love with. That deep infrastructure and sort of hosting at that scale. But I don't know. His presentation's pretty good too. They're fun.
I'll admit I've watched 5 minutes of it and ran out of time today.
Oh, good.
I had a lot of random personal stuff this week and that just didn't lead to watching these. So I missed that one, but my plan is to watch it. So ask me next week and I put myself on the spot. So I actually have to watch
you
it.
have to now do it.
Sucker.
Damn it. That was bad.
And then finally Werner's keynote, which he had the best intro video I think he's had in years. He basically had it started out with like looking at a newspaper that says AI is killing the development. And he goes, really? And then he goes into a, beta time machine he's built and goes back to the 60s, 70s maybe. And basically goes through all these times where people were like, NoSQL is going to kill this. And, COBOL is going to kill the punch card. And he's like, basically the message he delivered in that whole thing was development's just going to change. Just like it's changed multiple times before from, all these different things. I did like the subtle shade at blockchain because
that was my favorite. Yeah.
He basically had a Marty McFly type character in the thing, and he was teaching like, I'll teach you all the things you need to know, and like one of them was like blockchain, and I was like, no, you can skip that one.
Yeah, it was good. It was like a nice subtle, just like jab right in the middle of it. It was great.
Yeah, little dig, and then right out of it. It was good. But yeah. So overall, then he went into basically talking about this is the time of the Renaissance developer, being able to focus on things and being able to orchestrate across multiple agents, and now you have so much more power and capability, but you're still in control. Basically, it was the message. Again, fantastic Werner keynote. I always enjoy them. They're case study in how to do a good technical keynote, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and fantastic story, narrative, all the way through it. A as well.
I really like his keynotes. I always have. And even, I sent it to my day job, was like, guys, I understand we're not on AWS, but, you guys should listen to this. There's things of it you probably won't get, but the underlying pieces of it still should resonate. Like I like the way he talked about it. I like, the 5 principles he touched on and, how he always presents it in the story. I think he is always one of their best speakers, at least for me.
And I always like it when he makes me feel smart, because I've been sort of saying the same thing about development and how it's not going to get rid of development. And it's just going to be like the introduction of another tool that you use for development that makes you faster, more efficient, which is super cool. So I smart like Warner.
I'll let that go.
I will say, I think he lost weight.
It was the parade of Ozempic, if I ever saw one. Werner's definitely lost weight. Peter DeSantis is like half of Peter DeSantis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's definitely they bought a healthcare company, if you didn't know, and that's having a good impact on them. All right. Well, that's the keynotes. Let's jump into the bajillions of announcements that came out of it. We'll start out with AI ML because that's what they announced the most of course. So Bedrock now got you service tiers. So you have priority, standard, and flex to match your AI workload performance with your cost. There's now a reserved service tier for pre-purchase guaranteed tokens per minute capacity with a 99.5% SLA. I mean, not 4 nines. I don't know if I can use it.
Right.
I thought this was interesting where it's like, you can reserve it and we're still not going to guarantee that you'll get it. Like, I understand it's 3 nines and a 5. Like, it's still really high.
No, it's just 99.5. It's not even 3 nines. It's 2 nines and a 5.
2 nines and 5. But like, it doesn't sound great if I'm like, if I know I'm going to churn or I'm building my entire product on this and I'm going to pre-purchase the guarantee, but you're not really guaranteed it. Just felt weird to me.
They could have called it premium, which is what it is.
Ultra premium. Yeah.
They just charge you more for.
The new Bedrock Agent Core, which is policy controls, evaluations, episodic memory for AI agents, and controlling your AI agent fleet. Skynet's never been closer.
Yeah.
Through Agent Core. Bedrock reinforcement fine tuning with RLVR and RLAF for model customizations, which I don't know either of those are, other than I know they are involved in training and grounding. Amazon Nova 2 and all the Nova 2 families. There's a new Nova Forge to help you build your own foundational models, where they actually bring, one of the things he talked about in Nova Forge was, you don't have all the data you need to be able to successfully build a model of scale. And so with Nova Forge, they help you basically do that. They provide a bunch of data that you help to use to build the model. They help do the navigation of building the model for you, and you kind of get out of the box simpler model building if you're trying to build foundational models, which you should not be. So if you need to, it's nice to have that. Thanks, Anthropic applauded. Everyone else is like, no, we don't do foundational models. It's too expensive. So there you go.
I thought it was interesting also where it was in the Nova Forge where they were talking about like you integrate your data in at multiple points so it doesn't forget about it in the long term, and having that kind of building it in at multiple points so that it retains that information and becomes very much embedded with your logic versus anything else. I thought was kind of interesting. Maybe that's just general knowledge inside of the foundational model and RAG thing.
I think it is, and that's how most of the models are now fine tuning with user feedback, is they're doing basically that. But the thing they're giving you early training checkpoints rather than the fully rather than a fully trained model addressing the forgetting problem in general, and then service blending the customer data set with the Nova curated training data across pre-training, mid-training, and post-training to do that. So it's this is one of the challenges you have even when you're using RAG or you're using grounding, is that the model has all this other data in it. And so it doesn't necessarily have to use your data that came from the RAG to respond. It thinks there's a better path. And so it is a challenge. So it's definitely a solution to that.
Well, I agree with you that no one should be building their own foundational models unless it's really, truly like built on a data set that's unique. I do think that everyone should go through the exercise of building a model to understand how AI works.
It's kind of funny. Well, I don't think you should build an LLM. I do think you should build an SLM.
Mm-hmm.
And so small language models that are very finely tuned to certain things is basically the same process, but in a slightly different way. Yeah. And you start with a foundational model to get there. I think that is a very valuable process. And I think SLMs make a lot of sense for a lot of use cases because you're typically trying to do something very particular with your AI.
Yeah.
So 18 new open weight models, which gave Ryan the point earlier. Amazon Q developer cost management for natural language queries for AWS spending analysis. So your FinOps people can now get an AI buddy, which is always helpful. SageMaker serverless customization for automated infrastructure for fine tuning. SageMaker Hyperpod for checkpointless and elastic training capabilities. The AWS Cleanroom ML gets privacy enhancing synthetic data set generations. And then Agent Core evaluations allow you to continuously inspect agent quality based on real world behavior. Make sure your AI hasn't gone Skynet.
The last one was interesting because they're like about where it processes it. So they were saying how it processes it before it touches your data, which is interesting. And, I was worried, and I still am. They say it doesn't really affect because it's in line. How long? They say it's like 30 milliseconds or 300 milliseconds. I don't remember the number. But, that if that has to evaluate multiple times, you could add latency, but they say it's not going to affect it. So be curious in the real world, once that gets, more usage, how that will actually move on and affect things.
Yeah. All right, moving on to compute with EC2 and Lambda features. We got EC2 P6 B300 NVIDIA Blackwell Ultra GPU based instances. We got the X8 AEDZ, which I call the Elon Musk instance, which is an AMD EPYC 5 gigahertz memory optimized for EDA and databases. We got the new C8A instance, which is the AMD EPYC Turin with 30% higher compute performance. We got the new EC2 M9G, which has the new Graviton 5 powered instances with 25% better performance than Graviton 4. You can get a Graviton 5 processor with 192 cores and a 5x larger cache. And this is one of the things Peter talked about in his keynote was the balance between the L1, L2, and L3 cache and the trade-offs they make. But in this particular case, the Graviton 5, they feel like they made a really good balance and they had some really good customer testimonials on some of that as well. Lambda got 3 big features, and we'll talk about 2 of them in more depth here in a second, so I'll skip those 2. But Lambda tenant isolation mode is the first one, which is built-in multi-tenant separation. And then the final one in the section, AWS AI Factories, which is cloud-scale AI infrastructure in your own data center available to you. So then the 2 Lambda stories, let me go find them real quick. We're going to bounce around the document here, which is always fun. All right, introducing AWS Lambda managed instances lets you run Lambda functions on your EC2 instance in your account while AWS handles all infrastructure management, including patching, scaling, and the load balancing. This will bridge the gap for customers who need specialized EC2 hardware like Graviton 4 processors or want to apply existing EC2 reserved instances and compute savings plans to steady-state Lambda workloads without giving up serverless development benefits. The multi-concurrency feature allows each execution environment to process multiple requests simultaneously rather than one at a time, which reduces compute consumption and eliminates cold starts through pre-provisioned environments. Capacity providers can absorb traffic spikes up to 50% without scaling, and AWS automatically provisions additional instances within 10 seconds when needed, though extreme surges may trigger 429 throttle responses. Pricing includes 3 components: the standard Lambda request charge at 20 cents per million invocations, standard EC2 instance charges where your existing pricing agreements apply, and a 15% compute management fee calculated on EC2 on-demand pricing. Unlike traditional Lambda, you are not charged separately for execution duration per request, and the multi-concurrency model helps optimize your total compute time. Available to you in US East North Virginia, US East Ohio, US West Oregon, Asia Pacific Tokyo, and Europe Ireland regions. Support for Node, Java, .NET, and Python. Sadly, no Ruby, so I will not be running Ruby on my managed instance.
I'm sorry for the no Ruby. No, I'm not.
No.
Yeah.
You're sort of sad about it. I know. It's okay.
I feel like we should have seen this coming, given that they just released the EC2 managed instances, ECS managed instances a couple months ago.
Yeah. I'm sure this is built on some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of the first step. This will be the next one. Now I'm trying to figure out like what's next after this that I should have seen coming.
Well, Jonathan,
you thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He just saw it for GPU reasons. It's just saying that their use case that they described in the article was more about you getting access to Graviton 4. And then the use case around, well, I already have a bunch of instances and savings plans, and now you're telling me to go to Lambda, I lose all that. Well, that's actually a great transition area for customers who are on legacy EC2-based infrastructure who want to move to serverless. Now you can reuse your spend things. So there's a lot of the benefits to it potentially for certain customer types, in addition to some of the benefits for long-term transactions.
You still get savings plans. We're still on Lambda too.
Yeah, you had that available.
Percentage.
Yeah,
it just was a much lower percentage.
Yep.
Oh, well, I didn't realize that.
And then, one of the complaints too in high volume Lambda shops is the cost can get pretty astronomical, and it's like super high volume. Like most enterprise applications won't ever have that volume problem, but in really large shops, that it has been a complaint that you can rack up a lot of costs moving data between the different parts of the Lambda function. So this also helps you with some of the savings there. So there's that benefit. All right, the next one for Lambda was you can now build multi-step applications and AI workflows with AWS Lambda durable functions. Durable functions enable developers to build multi-step workflows using sequential code with automatic state management, checkpointing, and retries. The feature uses a checkpoint and replay mechanism where functions can suspend execution for up to 1 year without incurring compute charges during wait periods, making it suitable for long-running processes like payment workflows, AI agent orchestration, or approval processes requiring human interventions. The implementation uses an open source SDK available for Node.js and Python that provides primitives like context step for automatic retries and checkpointing, context.wait for suspending execution, and context create callback for handling external events. When failures occur, Lambda automatically resumes from the last checkpoint and replays the event handler while skipping already completed operations, eliminating the need for custom state management infrastructure. This positions Lambda as a direct alternative to AWS step functions for certain workflow patterns, particularly where developers prefer writing sequential code in their Lambda functions rather than defining state machines in JSON. The feature competes with Azure durable functions and provides built-in idempotency, event-bridge integration for monitoring, and the ability to use Lambda versions to ensure consistent replay behavior during long-running executions. Currently available to you only in US East Ohio region, with plans for broader expansion coming soon. Pricing follows standard Lambda compute charges, but eliminates costs during wait periods, which could provide substantial savings for workflows with long idle times. So, I mean, are we now officially saying serverless is dead? Now we can write true durable state functions?
Yeah. Is it still serverless if it's just sort of, I guess, still running on compute somewhere and it's not yours, and so that's really
tough. Yeah,
it's a fun. I mean, I can't wait to troubleshoot the Lambda function that ran 11 months ago, and now I can't seem to get my transaction to close properly because it's been waiting all this time. It's sort of interesting use case.
Yeah,
I'm curious how he handles, like, I've rolled out 16 new versions since then. I've had blob storage drop off.
I changed my JSON schema and the payload, and now what are you gonna do now, bitch? Like, there's all kinds of
I don't understand how to make that work. Also, if your payment takes a year, I have other problems. Like,
well, I mean, I don't think payment processing is the use case for that, but
I mean, it is crazy that it's up to a year because that's just seems like a really long window.
Isn't that what step functions is, like, up to a year wait?
I mean, I've never built a step function that had a year, a use case of a year either. So maybe I just don't know.
It is interesting.
Step function max time,
because it is like, thinking about, maintaining state and step functions like and it's not something that I really do within Python in general, just because it's expensive. And so the durable functions is kind of an interesting, I feel like it would be a really neat solution to a problem I don't have, so I don't understand it. I want to like it.
When I built Bolt, one of the problems is I originally was going to go serverless for it. And one of the things I was struggling with was, well, I basically need to do an async call to Claude to do the summarization. And so then, you got into like the complexities of dealing with the wait timeout and all that. And so I kind of said, well, this is just gonna be easier to do in container, and I bailed out of the serverless side. But like with this, I could see how, having this basic multi-step workflow capability and the durable function, I could do what I was trying to do much easier with a durable function than I would be able to do with a typical serverless function. So I could see that use case. And so again, like if you're calling third-party services that you have, payment processing is one they use, but like Claude or any AI model is another example of that. So this solves kind of one of those use cases, which is probably the reason why I don't see a lot of people doing Lambda for AI workloads.
That's a very good point.
And I wonder if this opens up that story a bit more.
Yeah, and it would make sense, right? Why the timing of the announcement as well.
So in your example, and this is where I guess my head's just not wrapping around it properly. You're making you take a story, you send it over to Claude, it does something.
Yeah.
Before with if we're in your container, it just waits and runs and sits there and waits for a response.
And it gets a response back. Yeah, I mean, and you could do the same thing in Lambda, but then the problem is that it's unpredictable how long the Claude model is going to take to respond back to your requests, and so you would end up either having to create a secondary event, a secondary function that would basically take the return or response, but then because you're not the calling response, like there comes with all kinds of state problems I was running into. So it could have been done. It just was more effort than I wanted to put into Bolt.
So I guess with this new feature, that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. What triggers it to start again? Is it the response back from Claude in this example? Okay, so the response back would then trigger it to wake up.
Yeah, you would basically put a wait event into the code. Basically say, I'm going to do that wait type that they called out earlier, which I've removed from the article. And then basically now I'm waiting for Claude to return, and now it returns, and I can resume based on where that wait occurred at. So
I mean, it could really save you even anything else. It could save you some decent money too. If you have
because otherwise what we did before is you basically ran the Lambda function until Claude returned, and even though it could have been quiet because Claude's going to take 2 to 3 seconds, and then it could have kicked up another one. But
and neither did you either dealt with the timeout of 15 minutes or you did handoff.
Yeah. something else that takes it back. And, I've done it also with an interim function that kind of takes it, listens, and then puts a message back on another queue to kind of process that
Well,
follow-up
that's the thing is
message.
here
So
is
I've done it that
you
way.
can get away from a lot of, one of the things you see a lot in the Lambda patterns is you'll see like a lot of heavy usage of queues for that exact reason, because the expense of going a message on a queue and then picking it back up is kind of silly in some cases. If it's just, you need to do a wait, but it's not a super long wait. So that I can see the use cases. Again, this is where stub functions was really helpful and where you could use stub functions quite a bit. So now the question is going to be, next time I think about a serverless app, am I going to do stub functions or am I going to use this distributed durable function? And I suspect that the durable function is going to win out more because it's more, the other advantage to it is it's more natural to how engineers think about async await anyways in their process. So it's going to be easier for developers to take advantage of it, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So step functions has a limit of up to 1 year under the hood if you use the standard workflow. So I'm wondering if this is somehow built on that or they've re-engineered to make it, be the AWS way of how many different ways to do the same thing.
I'm going to say it's Amazon's built a bunch of ways to do the same thing. And this is probably a new primitive that becomes something bigger later. So
that's where I think that's going.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to containers. We've got EKS capabilities of managed Argo, CD, ACK, KRO, and all in AWS-owned infrastructure, which was a bit of a challenge before. You get EKS MCP servers. You can talk natural language Kubernetes, like please run my pod, you piece of crap, Kubernetes. EKS container network observability with service map, flow tables, and performance metrics. And EKS and ECS now has an Amazon Q troubleshooting capability to let the AI help you figure out why your container won't start, which has been me many a time. And then finally, ECS Express Mode, a simplified deployment with automatic ALB domains and HTTPS. ECS Express Mode is their new simplified deployment option for containerized applications that automatically provisions infrastructure, including load balancer, domain, and HTTPS endpoint with just a container image. And this targets developers who want production-ready container orchestration without manually configuring networking, scaling, and routing components. Service automatically consolidates up to 25 Express Mode services behind a single application load balancer using intelligent rule-based routing, which will reduce your infrastructure costs while maintaining your service isolation. This is basically giving you a lot more platforming capabilities to run a container on top of ECS without you having to think quite so hard.
I think this is what I've always wanted Beanstalk and Lightsail to be, is this service. And so like this for me feels like the best of both worlds in the sense of like I still get all of my infrastructure bits and I get all the knobs and I'm building them the same way without all the abstraction and just like sort of, sending off my application into the machine. But this is sort of taking that sort of low level, like gluing it all together and sort of automating that away, which is great. So
I would agree with everything, but I really thought that this is what I wanted AppRunner to be. Because AppRunner was the container version. Like to me, Beanstalk was really Java, .NET, whatever. I know they have the container capability, but like to me, that was always like an add-on thing they did. AppRunner, I always thought was supposed to be the replacement of Beanstalk because it was a container, native. Like that was all they did. So that's where I thought that this, like AppRunner was like an ECS Fargate container in the hood, and they've done the load balancer and everything else to it. This, I feel like, is kind of that next step of really, like you said, what I want it to be. Manage the load balancer, manage the EE endpoint step, the ACM cert, all those little things that I've done in Terraform a million times. It just manages for you.
Makes sense. I mean, it's a big, I would do more research on this one too, because I feel like it's super cool. And I kind of agree with you. It's kind of the light sail version of ECS. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I don't know how you like specify some of the things like the domain for the container, but like I had to do some more research on it, but it does sound cool. In your networking and content delivery area, they give you CloudFront flat rate pricing, a bundled delivery, WAF, DDoS protection, all for $0 to $1,000 a month tiers. Basically, it's a way to make your CloudFront prices more predictable, which is always great, and it includes quite a bit of out-of-the-box capabilities. The VPN concentrator gets you now 25 to 100 low bandwidth sites connectable via a single transit gateway attachment, which is a nice upgrade because before you're limited at, I think, 20 of them before I recall. So you had a lot of transit gateways. Now you can have up to 100 connections to that transit gateway. Route 53 accelerated recovery now guarantees a 60-minute RTO for DNS during regional outages. And Route 53 Global Resolver in preview is new Anycast DNS for remote distributed clients. Then they gave us NAT gateways now support regional availability. This automatically scales across all availability zones in a VPC based on workload presence, eliminating the need to manually create and manage separate NAT gateways per AZ. Thank you. This simplifies network architecture by removing the requirement for public subnets to host NAT gateways and automatically update route tables as workloads expand or contract. The feature addresses a common operational pain point where customers previously had to provision NAT gateways in each AZ. They have workloads manually managing route tables and dealing with the complexity of multi-AZ deployments. Regional NATs maintain high availability, reducing management overhead and potential configuration errors. Customers can use either Amazon-provided IP addresses or bring their own IP address with Regional NAT Gateway, providing flexibility for organizations with specific IP address requirements. The change could impact your NAT Gateway costs since the service now automatically provisions capacity across multiple AZs based on workload presence, but AWS has not published specific pricing details for these quite yet. But assuming you can turn off a bunch of AZ NAT gateways, it can save you some money.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool. I remember having to write like production versus dev Amazon sort of bootstrap account, stuff that to address many of these shortcomings, right, for networking and building the PPC. So this is definitely toil that you no longer have to sort of orchestrate at that level, because you can now just have sort of a one configuration that scales to what you need.
Yeah, my only negative part of this is, it costs the same. I was looking at the pricing page, and it literally is just, if you have still set your production up or your dev up with 3 zones, it's just going to add 3 zones to it, which means you're paying the same thing as if you set it up. So there still is benefit of doing the, I'm going to call it single AZ NAT gateway versus the regional gateway. Because like for dev, I always just do one NAT gateway. And even like the AWS VPC Terraform module that they release has a flag in there for one NAT gateway because they cost so freaking much.
Okay.
So, but this is great, I think, for like for production where you don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
I wish it was cheaper, but yeah.
Yeah, I always wish it would be cheaper, but that's never the way.
Well, I wish they would have done like, okay, if you use this and you use 3, they charge you for 2, and they do some magic on the back end, like for load balancing and scaling up and down each zone. But I assume for availability, they want it.
It'd be nice to know also, like, if I have an auto scaling group, let's say it typically can sit at 1 node, but then during the day it boosts up to 3 and needs outbound connectivity. Like as it auto scales up and down, is the NAT gateways and the other AZs going to go up and down as well? Because that would be nice savings potential. And maybe that's a future attraction that we just don't have yet, but definitely interesting. This one must have been wanted to be talked about by Ryan because it's security. You can now enforce encryption in transit within and across VPCs in a given region. VPC encryption control now provides centralized visibility and enforcement of encryption in transit for all traffic within and across VPCs in a region, addressing compliance requirements for HIPAA, PCI DSS, and FedRAMP without managing complex PKI infrastructure. Feature operates in 2 modes: monitor mode, which adds encryption status fields to VPC full logs to identify plain text traffic. Enforce mode blocks unencrypted traffic and ensures all new resources use encryption-compliant Nitro hardware. AWS automatically migrates network load balancers, application load balancers, and Fargate tasks to Nitro hardware transparently during monitor mode. Customers may upgrade older EC2 instances, RDS databases, and Elasticsearch clusters, and other services to modern Nitro-based instance types. The encryption uses AES 256 GCM at the hardware level through the Nitro system with no performance impact, and VPC full logs show encryption status values from 0 for plain text to 3 for both TLS and Nitro encryption. Available to you in 23 regions, which is almost all of them. So definitely available to you, most likely in the region that you're using today.
And if you've ever had to, do any kind of like compliance evidence, like that's the reason why this exists. And this is why I love it so much. It's just because it's the song and dance that you have to do to sort of illustrate your use of encryption across your environment is just sort of painful. And, I love that they're adding sort of enriching the data set for flow logs and adding it all in there. So it just makes it really easy to provide that to an external auditor and have it be part of your controls. And I love it.
Didn't Azure or GCP just release this, or did I read this while in the last week and remember it? I swear I just read about it as part of preparing for the podcast last week, or one of the other cloud providers, they did something similar to this.
I
Thinking-
don't recall.
I think I'm thinking now. I just read it last week.
I mean, I do. I think Google has it available. Has had it for a while. So maybe
Okay.
Azure did it. Because you would probably see that more often. But Google has this capability as well. All right, and our final networking item is one for Peter, who's not here, but it has been here for a while. But AWS Network Firewall Proxy is in preview. This, of course, is a preview of an explicit proxy service that centralizes outbound traffic filtering to prevent data exfiltration and malware injection. The service protects against domain and SNI spoofing while offering granular HTTP header filtering and TLS inspection capabilities. Proxy deployment requires just a few clicks to configure an explicit mode where applications route traffic through the proxy for inspection before reaching external destinations. Organizations can whitelist trusted domains and IP addresses while blocking unwanted responses from external servers, addressing common security gaps in your application level control. Available for free during the preview in US East Ohio region, with comprehensive logging to S3 and CloudWatch for audit analysis. And this positions AWS compete more directly with third-party proxy solutions from Zscaler and Palo Alto Networks. And the service fills a gap in AWS's native security tooling that we've been asking for since the podcast began.
It's funny because this was one of Peter's prediction requests every time.
Like
Multiple
every
times.
prediction, he was like, "I want this thing," and we're like, "Yeah, it's not going to happen, Peter."
Squid
You keep
as a
trying."
service. Yeah. I did quickly look about the other one. Microsoft Azure just released it recently.
Okay,
Roughly the same feature set. I think it was like October.
that's good. All right, moving on to storage and FSX. So S3 Vectors is now officially general availability to allow you to have data vector support in S3 with 2-bit vector indexes and 20 terabyte vector buckets. S3 tables replication and intelligent tiering to automatically replicate your table to other regions, as well as move to lower cost storage if you are not using the data as quickly as you thought. S3 storage lens is being enhanced with performance metrics, billions of prefixes, S3 table export, and S3 encryption controls are now enforceable at the bucket level. There's also a new S3 block public access, which we'll talk about now. Block public. So AWS organizations will now let you enforce S3 block public access setting across all accounts in your organization from a single policy configuration, eliminating the need to manage public access controls individually per account. Policies can be applied at the root, the OU level, or to specific accounts, with new member accounts automatically inheriting the setting. This addresses a common security challenge where organizations struggle to maintain consistent S3 public access controls across multiple accounts. And we were very glad when they added it to begin with, but yeah, the per account is a killer. So nice to have it now at the OU level, basically.
Yeah, this is one of those easy compliance controls that you just had to check the box on every single time to prove that you didn't do this. So it's a nice quality of life improvement.
Yeah. I mean, and I hope that, because there's always exceptions, right? You want these specific buckets to be public. So I hope that management of that is sort of built in, but I do think that this is a good thing to have for sure. Because I do remember like compiling trusted advisor results across, hundreds of AWS accounts to illustrate that this is
Yes.
turned on.
Yeah. They also now, and I remember which presentation was maybe in Peter's, or maybe it was Swami, but basically they're talking about, one of the things S3 is it's had a 5 terabyte limit for a long time. And so to enable more use cases, including high resolution video, seismic data file, larger AI training data sets, they've now increased the limit by 10x to 50 terabytes, which is awesome if you have those use cases and you use it for those use cases. But it's really bad for all those developers out there who don't think this hard and now are going to create you 50 terabyte objects in your bucket. So I appreciate it in one side, and on the other side, I'm sort of apprehensive about this one.
I had that thought when I read this. So you know what I've never run into? A 5 terabyte object limit. I've never once said, oh man, if only this was more. And so that's crazy.
So your 5 terabyte object, your 50 terabyte object, just that one object if you make is $110 a month. Roughly.
It's a steal of a deal.
Yeah. I mean, from a price point, it's not bad for 50 terabytes, but why is my object not downloading to my container? It keeps crashing.
Right.
Well, you tried to download a 50 terabyte object to your 5 gig temp folder. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
And like I get multi-part upload and being able to have multiple streams for downloads but I'm sure there's a good use case for this. I'm just not sure what it is.
And then in probably the weirdest announcement of the conference for me, Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP now supports S3 access points, allowing enterprise file data to be accessed through S3 APIs while remaining in the FSx file system. This enables your organization to use their existing NetApp file data with AWS AI ML services like Amazon Bedrock, SageMaker, and QuickSuite without data migration or changing file management practices. And the integration bridges traditional NAS storage with cloud-native applications by creating S3 endpoints attached to the FSx volume. And I read this and I'm just like, why? Like, I get that you don't want to move your data, but you want to use it more for AI. So like, that's the use case. But like, so expensive. Like, you're expecting that the NetApp ONTAP is going to handle all of the access through the API endpoint. Like, you're building a lot of faith in NetApp, in my opinion, to scale for your use case.
And this was also announced. Wasn't this on the keynote too? Like, this was announced pretty heavily live too, which I was surprised by.
Yeah, it was. They were definitely very big about it. It's clear that NetApp was probably saying, "Hey, we sponsored you. You better mention us on main stage somewhere."
What I love is that ONTAP is almost certainly sharding data chunks into S3 as part of its like intelligent tiering. So it's like, it's just a circular.
It's just, all the way down, all the way down. That was the strangest announcement, I think, of the conference for me. All right, databases. Aurora DSQL gets you cost estimates. So now you can do statement level DPU usage and query plans, which is nice because if you ever read the documentation on how DSQL works and try to figure out how to then figure out the cost of it, he was like, I don't understand. I don't have a PhD that I need for this. Postgres Aurora dynamic data masking to basically use the PG column mask extension. So you automatically mask data. OpenSearch 3.3 with agentic search and semantic highlighter improvements was launched. And OpenSearch GPU acceleration for 6 to 14x faster vector indexing, all available to you. And then we got a bunch of RDS SQL enhancements. So let me go jump to those. First up, I love trying to jump through articles this way before. We don't do it this way normally for a reason.
Next time we'll add in anchors.
Yeah, mistakes were made.
Yes.
AWS is adding 4 new capabilities to RDS for SQL Server and Oracle. Focused on cost optimizations and storage flexibility. SQL Server Developer Edition is now available for free for non-production workloads with full enterprise edition features, and new M7i and R7i instances offer up to 55% better cost reduction with separate licensing, billing, and CPU optimization to reduce vCPU-based licensing cost while maintaining memory and IOPS performance. So basically, you can turn off all those CPUs you don't actually want to use because you need the memory, which will save you a bunch of money in licensing costs, which is a big win in general. So that's a great one for sure.
I mean, I wish it wasn't needed, but it's definitely something that's very much used.
And then the other one is, of course, our favorite. We finally got savings plans for databases.
Woohoo!
Woo!
I feel like this is Matt's version of the squid proxy for Peter. I think Matt's been asking for this for a while.
I think there's been a bunch of us ranting about this need for a while. Where did that one go? Again, anchors. Okay, database savings plans extends AWS existing savings plans models to manage database services, offering up to 35% savings on serverless deployments and up to 20% on provisioned instances when customers commit to a consistent hourly spend over a 1-year term. This applies to 9 database types, including Aurora, RDS, DynamoDB, Elasticache, DocumentDB, Neptune, Keyspaces, TimeStream, and DMS. The key flexibility advantage is that commitments remain valid even when customers change database engines, switch between provisioned and serverless deployments, or shift usage across AWS regions during migrations or modernization efforts. So yeah, this is quite nice and quite broad. So they definitely heard all of the community saying, please bring us database savings plans.
I mean, for RDS itself, it's not that big of a deal, but for DynamoDB and all the other SQL databases that it supports, like that's where I feel like the real win is here. That you can get that savings.
Well, I mean, you could get RIs.
You're not changing.
I mean, the RDS you got RIs, but with savings plans now, I can move. I can
you
move
can
from
change
MySQL. I can move from MySQL to to Aurora, without losing my discount or wasting money. So that's the value part of it that I think in the savings plan piece. But yes, you're right. The Dynamo piece is bigger.
And RIs were bound to RDS instance type, right? That was always the
right, which is why you didn't get it when you moved to Aurora, or if you moved over from R5s to RAGs. But that to me was less of an ordeal, because enough times if you said, hey, we're just changing this support, can you help us? Like, we're moving to a new tier, they would really work with you on that.
Agreed. And then the last one from databases that I want to mention here, because it's one that blocked me from using things many times, is that you can now enable the RDS SQL Server Resource Governor. So if you would like to prevent your multi-tenant databases from having one customer with a really noisy neighbor problem, you can now do that because you can enable the SQL Server Resource Governor natively, which is fantastic.
Really?
Oh, that's kind of like Elastic Pools on Azure. I didn't realize that.
Take your word for it.
So Elastic
Yeah.
Pools, essentially, you give 10 databases. I mean, it's down one more level. You give 10 databases 15 cores, and you say each one can use no more than 6 at a time.
Oh.
So you're essentially over provisioning and putting the governor in there to limit it. So it's essentially they're going to be their way to kind of get that same type of feature.
So it's intentionally creating noisy neighbors. Got it.
I mean, it's no different than the old school VMware over provisioning your on-prem cluster. But you're like, I have 500 gigs of memory. I'm allocating 750, knowing that not everyone's gonna log in at or nothing's gonna happen all at the same time until it does, and then you swear a lot. One of the two.
All right, moving on to security and identity, Ryan's favorite part. Security Hub is generally available. We talked about this. This gives you that real-time analytics, risk prioritization, and trending. You now have Secrets Manager external secrets to manage the rotation for Salesforce, Snowflake, and Big ID. I assume that you'll see additional customers and SaaS companies adopting some of that in the future. IAM Outbound Identity Federation for short-lived JOTs for external service authentication. So think service to service, but going to an external service, you need a JOT token. You can now do that through Federation. The AWS login CLI command, which eliminates long-term access keys with OAuth 2, which that's been long in the waiting. WAF, WebBot Auth, which is cryptographic signature verification for legitimate AI agents. So you can make sure those AIs scanning your website are legit. And then Agent Core Identity to help you solve all of your agent identity challenges. And then we've got 3 that we're going to talk about. Guard Duty Extended. Where is it? Again, we should have done links. Amazon Guard Duty is adding extended threat detection for Amazon EC2 and Amazon ECS. This basically now correlates security signals across EC2 instance groups and ECS clusters to identify multi-stage attacks, join existing capabilities for IAM, S3, and EKS. The service uses AI and ML models to automatically link related suspicious activities like initial access, persistence attempts, and unusual data access to single critical security findings across instead of scattered alerts. Feature analyzes runtime activity of VPC flow logs, DNS queries, CloudTrail events, and malware detection to build attack sequences across resources that share auto-scaling groups, launch templates, AMIs, and IAM instance profiles. And each sequence finding includes an incident summary, timeline, and MITRE attack mapping. Extended threat detection works with Guard Duty's foundational plan, though enabling runtime monitoring for EC2 and ECS provides deeper process and network telemetry that improves detection accuracy. Expanded coverage is available now in all AWS regions where Guard Duty operates.
So if you're in security, you've had the conversation billions of times, like, oh, how is this one change my security group setting, or this gonna really, how is this really going to be a big deal? What this will do is literally lay out the whole sort of kill chain in a graphical form in a way that is very easy to communicate how all these things sort of end up into potential breach. And it's really easy to communicate and really gets people thinking about the defensive depth that's needed to protect things with all those layers. And I really love features like this. Google's had this for quite a while, and it's one of my favorite features. It just really does illustrate it very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I learned things from it.
That's great. I mean, I'm definitely glad to see Guard Duty extended to EC2. I mean, ECS was a nice add, and then they said EC2, and I was like, okay, now we're talking. Because it's on the EKS for a while, which is nice, but EC2 now means it covers all kinds of applications, not just containerized ones, which is super powerful. The one I got a point on, AWS Security Agent is a new AI-powered tool that automates application security reviews, code scanning, and penetration testing throughout the development lifecycle. Unlike traditional SaaS and DaaS tools that lack context, this agent understands application design, code, and organizational security requirements to provide continuous validation from design to deployment. Service is currently in preview and free during this period. available in US East 1. Penetration testing capabilities address a critical bottleneck where 81% of organizations knowingly deploy vulnerable code to meet deadlines because traditional pen testing takes weeks to schedule. AWS Security Agent runs on-demand tests in hours instead of days, using context from source code and specifications to execute sophisticated multi-step attack scenarios across 13 risk categories, including OAuth's top 10 vulnerabilities. Smugglug reports completing assessments in hours rather than days at a fraction of the manual testing cost. The service integrates with GitHub or automated pull request scanning and enforces custom organizational security requirements beyond standard vulnerability detection. And for example, it can flag policy violations like incorrect log retention periods or missing customer managed encryption keys that function security tooling would miss. Design review capabilities and analyzed architectural documents before code is written, checking compliance against AWS managed requirements or custom organizational policies. And system can categorize findings as compliant, non-compliant, insufficient data, or not applicable. Which, I mean, architecture framework is one that always needs a not applicable. So nice to see security agents now does that as well.
I mean, this is neat. I can't wait to play with this. This sounds like, a dream. Having something that runs in your environment and sort of like virtual red teaming that does all of the things.
Well, the fact that it runs, it's definitely came out, it's definitely competing with Azure released the same thing during their conference. But the piece I like about this is the pen test piece, because it now lives, in your source code, which you probably already have an SCA or static code analysis tool, and it lives also after it's live. So if you're running any sort of automated pen test, but it's running this, which feels like it's going to be more in depth than a DAS. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like it's going to be that next level. Because to me, a pen test isn't just a DAS scan. A pen test includes, trying different things, iterations, a little bit more detailed of it. Since it's in the entire life cycle of it, hopefully it gains more knowledge and kind of can give you that, internal threat detector too. Internal threat actor too.
Yeah.
And then AWS has announced a feature that I think we talked about trying to build at one point. Brian and I.
Definitely.
They've released IAM Policy Autopilot, a free open source tool that analyzes application code locally to generate baseline IAM policies, reducing the manual effort of writing permissions and troubleshooting access issues. The tool works as a model context protocol server that integrates with AI coding systems like Kiro, Cloud Code, and Cursor. The tool currently supports Python, TypeScript, and Go applications and automatically stays up to date with the latest AWS services and IAM permissions, addressing a common pain point where developers struggle to keep policies current with AWS's rapid service expansion. IAM Policy Autopilot runs entirely on your local machine and is available at no cost through the GitHub repository at github.com/AWS Policy Autopilot. So thank you, Amazon, for developing the thing I wanted to build.
Yeah. I've tried to build this a lot of times and built like kind of crappier versions of it that weren't, that were just doing like regex and search strings and trying to compare like sort of the SDK functions to permission sets. And this is great because this is the biggest challenge, and I hope every cloud develops their own version of this because it's a challenge on every single cloud. You write an application and you have to go through this iterative process. You either over permission it from the get-go, or it takes you several revisions of generating that policy until you get it right. And then you still probably miss something that's an edge case permission that it needed only in this one state later on. So this is great.
It was already, there's been third parties. There was like IAM or something where you essentially made it go through a proxy. There's been a few pretty good stabs at it, where it would like essentially but it never was always up to date with the latest. So if this is going to be part of their release process where it stays up to date, that will be golden.
For sure. I mean, I didn't like those solutions. I had to go through a proxy just because, it's a man-in-the-middle attack now, and you have to scale it, and can it scale properly? So this is much better that it's cloud native. So I'm much happier.
And it's more exposed directly to the development rather than sort of having this like middleware sort of component that has to be set up or either supported as part of a developer platform or however you want to do it.
For our FinOps friends, we've got some stuff this week as well. Cost Explorer forecasting has been extended from 12 months to 18 months, which is just nice. And they also give you an explainable AI for that, so it tells you why it thinks this is your forecast for 18 months. So it can not only tell you the forecast, but also tell you why. So when your CFO is mad at the forecast, you can say, "This is what the AI says." Yeah, man. Here's the reasons.
Don't argue with
the
AI.
Cost efficient. Yeah, don't. He's smarter than me. Cost efficiency metric, a single percentage score combining optimization opportunities. which there are a lot of FinOps teams looking for a KPI or a metric that they can use. So that's pretty nice. AWS data exports in the Focus 1.2 format, and then billing transfer to allow centralized billing across multiple organizations. So if you have a reason, a big multinational company that needs to have different organizations, you now still have centralized billing across multiple organizations, which was a limitation before. And then the next one we're going to talk about is the compute optimizer for NAT gateways. I don't know what this is. Optimizer. I can't spell. AWS is launching cost efficiency metric and cost optimization. Oh, wait, that's the right one. Too many stories. There we are. Okay. AWS Compute Optimizer now identifies unused NAT gateways by analyzing 32 days of CloudWatch metrics, including active connections and packet traffic, helping customers eliminate costs from idle resources. Service cross-references route table associations to avoid flagging critical backup NAT gateways as unused. NAT gateways, of course, cost 4.5 cents per hour plus data processing charges. So identifying unused instances can save customers over $30 per month per gateway before factoring in data transfer costs. Feature extends Compute Optimizer's idle resource detection beyond EC2 instances and EBS volumes to network infrastructure, addressing a common cost optimization blind spot. Available in all AWS regions where Compute Optimizer operates, except AWS GovCloud, US, and China regions.
Just a nice cost savings because the amount of NAT gateways I've seen not used is astronomical in my career.
That's not a problem I've had. Like, I'm sure it is a thing. I've never had it. But I guess this is why that other NAT gateway feature makes sense, because you had a server in this zone and now that server doesn't exist. You're paying for a gateway you don't need. For developer tools and modernization, we've got a couple of things here. Step functions, local testing, so you can do test state API with mocking support. API gateway developer portals or native API discovery and documentation portals, which we asked for many, many moons ago. So that's pretty nice. And then there's several updates to the Transform family, including Transform Mainframe, Transform Custom, and Transform Windows, which we'll talk about right now. So the three transforms, so there's first Custom to basically look at any of your custom code and help you address your scenarios like Python 3.8 or 3.13 Lambda migrations and all things like that. And then the Mainframe, of course, helps you migrate from your legacy COBOL applications. But the one that I thought was interesting was the Windows one, which will let you handle full stack Windows modernization, including .NET Framework to cross-platform .NET, SQL Server to Aurora PostgreSQL migration with stored procedure conversion, and ASP.NET Web Form to Blazor UI updates. The service analyzes dependencies across all three tiers and orchestrates transformations in waves, aiming to accelerate modernization by up to 5 times compared to manual approaches. The service automatically converts SQL Server schemas to PostgreSQL compatible structure, migrates all data using AWS DMS, and refactors dependent application code to work with the new database. It deploys transform applications to EC2 Linux or ECS for testing and generates CloudFormation templates for production deployment, handling the entire stack in a coordinated way. New capabilities in AWS Transformer.NET include support for porting to .NET 10 and .NET Standard, a real-time transformation progress with estimated completion times, and editable transformation reports. And service now converts those ASP.NET Web Form projects to server-side Blazor components and generates the next step markdown files for remaining manual tasks. Currently available to you in US East, North Virginia, with no additional charges for the transformation service itself. The standard AWS resource pricing applies for deployed infrastructure. So that's if you were stuck in a legacy .NET shop, that's a good one right there. You guys are wowed, I can tell.
Speechless about it. Speechless.
Yeah, just talked about similar type of solutions for so long that, and still just can't beat developer teams to use them.
Yeah. Well, before reInvent in the pre-invent phase, something happened in Amazon land that has never happened before. I mean, lots of things never happened in Amazon. A year and a half ago, we talked about the fact that they've never deprecated a service. Now they deprecated a bunch of services.
Mhm.
And one of those services they deprecated was code commit. And at the time, we sort of said, that's interesting. There's lots of use cases where code commit still makes sense. And apparently customers were outraged. And so Amazon has reversed its July 2024 decision to de-emphasize code commit and is returning the service to full general availability immediately, reopening new customer signups after customer feedback revealed the service's IAM integration, VPC endpoint support, and CloudTrail logging are critical for regulated industries and teams wanting AWS native development infrastructure. The reversal comes with a concrete investment roadmap, including Git LFS support arriving in Q1 2026 to handle large binary files without bloating repositories, and regional expansion starting in Q3 2026 with EU South 2 and CA West 1 regions joining the existing 29 region footprint. Current customers who stay with code commit will see AWS work through accumulated feature requests and support tickets. Those who migrate to GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket can return with assistance from AWS support teams, though AWS acknowledges those platforms remain valid choices. Pricing remains unchanged from existing structure available on the code commit pricing page, with service maintaining the 99.9% uptime SLA, making this primarily a strategic reversal rather than a technical or pricing update. Announcement represents an unusual public acknowledgement of a strategic misstep by AWS, with the company directly apologizing to customers who invested resources in migrating away from code commit.
Crazy town.
I mean, I hope all customers had some sort of plan, but knowing that I've seen many companies say, oh my God, we got this notice 6 months ago, we'll deal with it in 6 months. And now it's 5 months, 4 weeks, or 3 weeks and 6 days. Oh my God, this thing's going to expire tomorrow. There's probably a large swath of customers that still are there.
Migrating from your full repository is challenging, and like the announcement listed several use cases that I hadn't even thought about and how difficult it would be. Like if you've got your entire like sort of compliance development environment controls built around IAM, like it'd be a big challenge to move that, Like,
well, even we talked about, I think when they deprecated, there's certain services that are directly integrated to code commit for getting configuration, and so there was a bit of a question in my mind on how some of those services are going to update to support GitHub, and I assume they'd already had done that, but again, I'm not using those services right now, so I don't know. But there's also ability to do CI/CD operations from inside of your Amazon portfolio and estate, like you mentioned, for regulated, but just other compliance requirements sometimes require those things as well. So I mean, I don't recommend using code commit as your only Git service, but it's definitely an option if you need to do something that you commit on a GitHub, and then you have a replication process that replicates certain releases to your code commit for deployment reasons. There's lots of benefits to doing something like this that may make sense to your organization. So I'm kind of glad to see this one get reversed. I'm not sad about any of the other ones that got deprecated previously. So
no, can't say that I am either.
But I mean, it does show that they are listening to customers, which is nice, because I started questioning if all of the leadership principles still applied at some point. But hey, customers were demanding it, and they did it. So A+.
The only one I'm still surprised is Cloud9. While I never used it, like it never was a production. It was always good for like it was good for Amazon coming out or teaching you something, and so it was a good way to kind of like set up a thing to run everything locally. Like, so to me, that wasn't like a production or developer tool, but more of like a how to sell to other customers. So more things to customers.
I mean, there's probably a path where you see it get replaced by like Kiro Web or something like that, where you use an AI to do coding exercises on the web. Like that's what you see with Claude Code and others, where they've got a web interface for those. So I suspect you'll see it kind of get rebirthed, but just in an AI product.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Which would make sense. So, all right, Observability and monitoring. We're almost through this, guys. CloudWatch Unified Data Management, which is consolidated ops, security, and compliance logs. Yay. CloudWatch Deletion Protection, which prevents accidental log group removal. And then the CloudWatch Network Flow Monitor, Container Networking Observability, for EKS. The Unified Data Management is actually really nice because it does pull together multiple different log streams together, which was kind of a challenge. If you needed to have different log streams, different regions, you can pull them together with this feature. A couple other benefits to it as well. So that one of those three is the most exciting to me. The accidental log group removal is not my problem, because I never know which ones I should delete or not delete. So I just leave them forever, because they don't cost you anything if they don't take any data ingestion.
That's pretty funny.
Governance and management. Control tower controls are dedicated, so you can now use management controls without full landing zones, which was one of the big complaints that we had about control tower when it first came out, was that this is great, it has amazing things, but I don't want to implement their landing zone because I already have one. So now you can use some of their controls without the landing zone. Service quotas now have automatic management for auto adjust limits based on usage. And then supplementary packages for Amazon Linux are now pre-built for you for Amazon Linux. And then our final chatting one here is our AMI Ancestry story. AMI Ancestry provides automatic lineage tracking for Amazon machine images from creation through all regional copies back to the root AMI, only the need for manual tagging and custom record keeping systems. It addresses a long-standing operational challenge where teams had to build their own tracking methods to understand AMI provenance across multi-region deployments. The feature solves a critical security and compliance workflow by enabling teams to quickly identify all downstream AMIs when vulnerabilities are discovered in a parent image And organizations can now trace which production workloads might be affected by a compromise-based image without maintaining separate documentation systems or relying on naming conventions that break down at scale. Available at no additional costs for all AWS regions, including China and GovCloud, AMI Ancestry is accessible through AWS Console, CLI, and the SDK. So yeah, this is a good one. Definitely glad this one is finally here.
I've built 3 different ways to do this in my career. 4 if you count my current day job on Azure. You always want to start and then know where it came from. So if there's a vulnerability, you know where to start patching and go up from there. And it's always easy to say you start all the way at the beginning, but if you have multiple teams that have to, that you build something, then multiple teams build off that, then teams build off that, it's always hard to track. So knowing and being able to track all that is a godsend versus DynamoDB hackery that I've done in my life.
DynamoDB hackery, S3 hackery, so many, so many bad ways
So much
to manage AMIs and try to, deprecate older ones without breaking someone. Yeah, this is fantastic.
Tags on the next image that then get lost when you copy them or share them, and then how you deal with sharing them once you share them, which I don't know if this will do, is how you share it between other regions. Like, it's just bad across the board.
I forgot about the tags, and then the tag it disappeared. oh.
Yeah, made that mistake. That's the first one everyone does, and everyone runs into it at one point where you're like, "Oh, I've copied it. Oh crap, I lost my tags." Yeah,
that's a good one.
Scar tissue.
Scar tissue for sure. DevOps and operations. We've got AWS DevOps agent and preview, which gives you autonomous incident investigation and root cause analysis. Which I don't know why it's called the DevOps agent, because that's
doesn't make any sense. It's an SRE thing.
Yeah.
Come on.
Amazon doesn't know what SRE is either. That's the problem. And then apparently our Amazon support plans are getting restructured. So they're restructuring it and lowering the price, but also maybe lowering the quality. Maybe, I don't know. AWS has restructured its support offerings into 3 AI enhanced tiers, with business support at $29 a month, which is 71% cheaper than before. Enterprise support at $5,000 a month, which is a 67% reduction, and unified operations at $50,000 a month. The new plan shifts from reactive troubleshooting to proactive issue prevention using AI-powered monitoring and contextual recommendations that maintain account history across support interactions. Response times have improved significantly across all tiers of business support, plus offering 30-minute critical case response twice as fast as the previous business tier. Enterprise support at 15 minutes and unified operations delivering 5-minute response times. I mean, the response is just, I got your ticket.
Yeah. You have an agentic AI generator response. This isn't good.
All plans now include AI agents that provide context to support engineers before human handoff, eliminating the need for customers to repeat information. Enterprise support now includes AWS security incident response at no additional cost, providing automated security event monitoring and investigation capabilities. And the tier also offers access to interactive workshops and hands-on programs for continuous technical development beyond traditional case-based support. Unified operations provides the most comprehensive support with dedicated team, including a TAM, a domain engineer, and a senior billing specialist, plus on-demand migration and security experts. As the tier includes 24/7 monitoring, systematic application reviews, operational readiness validation, and support for business critical events, the full context of your customer environment. Existing customers on Developer, Business, Classic, and Enterprise on-air plans can continue their current support through January 1st, 2027, with the option to migrate earlier through the AWS Management Console. And the new plans are available in all commercial AWS regions with tiered pricing that reduces marginal costs at higher usage levels.
I hope this ends up being decent service, but in my head, I'm like, yeah, they're lowering the cost because they're just getting rid of all their support staff and putting
they've
bots
been laying
in
off all those people.
Yeah.
But I also think support's gone down dramatically.
Has it?
Like back in the day, I remember I remember I would wait to open support tickets till after 4:00 Pacific time because you would get the Australia team, which was amazing. And this was 10, 12 years ago. And their support was always so much better than when you opened up in US. So I always learned I either opened support tickets really early in the day to Ireland, or I would wait till the Australia group came on. But I feel like since then, it's just, I've opened support and they give you the most basic generic answer. And I'm like, are you dumb, or are you just not even listening to what I've said, or do you just assume that I'm a moron and I have no idea what I'm talking about?
The last one.
I mean,
I'm giving you a full detailed story of everything. Yeah, I know.
But I do like the idea that it's going to give them AI generated summaries of the case, because I have ran into the thing where I had to repeat my issue to multiple support people.
Mhm.
That's super annoying.
That is
so
annoying.
that alone might be
Yeah.
helpful. But I don't know. I was telling someone earlier about how good Amazon support was back in the day. When you had a TAM and everything, and like the amount of abuse those people took, because of course, engineers blame the cloud every time something goes wrong.
Every time.
Yeah.
And so we allowed all of them to open support cases directly to AWS. And so the only thing we policed on was like, please don't open high priority cases if they're not really a high priority.
Mhm.
And so I would watch tickets go through, and like the dumbest questions being asked. So like, hey, we think Amazon blah 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 is broken because of this error, and like you see this support person patiently respond back to them with like, no, your code is doing this, which is incorrect. This is even good async operations that you're doing here. Like, in the kindest, most polite way possible, not calling them an idiot, but basically implying like, no, it's not us, it's you.
Yeah.
And so some of that stuff though could definitely be done by AI. So
Yeah.
I do suspect that there is some benefit, and it's nice that they're not just adding this and saying everyone's going to get this and you're going to pay the same price. Just to improve our margins. We're like, no, we're going to try to help it make it better, and we're going to give you a slightly lower price and hopefully provide better support net. We'll see how it works. I'm curious, real-time feedback from customers out in the wild, how good or bad this is if they opt for it. I know for my personal business support, $29 a month is a way better price. So CloudPod's moving to business support, folks.
Business support
Nice.
plus.
Yes, business support plus. Correct.
They had to rebrand it here.
Yeah, they did. And then our final two sections before we wrap up for the night: marketplace and partners, partner central and console. So if you're buying your Amazon services through a partner, you can now see the partner experience and the customer experience together. I assume segmented in some way, which is nice.
Hey.
Multi-product solutions. You can now bundle offerings from multiple vendors in a solution. So, a private marketplace offering that includes SAP and other vendors in that bundle. You can now do that. And then CrowdStrike Falcon is now integrated to provide automated SIM setup wizard experience through the marketplace. So now you get a much better onboarding experience for CrowdStrike Falcon, which was interesting. They called that one out specifically. And then if you're in the connectivity and contact center area, Amazon Connect got way more announcements than just this. I just it was such a long list that I just said these are the two I care about. One is predictive insights, which is AI powered recommendations for your support cases. Then Amazon Connect MCP support, which is standardized tools for AI agents. And again, considering that Amazon support probably uses Amazon Connect, this all makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, this is definitely that tool.
Yeah.
Amazon Connect has been their support tool for a long time. Before it was a product.
Before it was
I'm
a
sure of it.
product we could get. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's reInvent. That was a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was good. I think compared to last year, I feel this is a much better reInvent. Like
The announcements are better.
the announcements were
Yeah.
better. I think the things they focused on, I think they got the memo that AI is cool and we know you need to do it, but you can mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
We just want them to mix it up a little bit more.
I'd like to see what Nova 2 actually can do and see if it, like they were showing it beating, Claude and OpenAI and benchmarks, and I was like, sure it is. I don't know if I believe that. So I'm curious to see kind of as real world starts actually using some of these features, what they think and how they go from there. So anyways,
yeah,
I'm glad we got through this. We'll see you all next week here at the Cloud Pod.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And that's all for this week in Cloud. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Archera. Be sure to click the link in our show notes to learn more about their services. While you're at it, head over to our website at thecloudpod.net, where you can subscribe to our newsletter, join our Slack community, send us your feedback, and ask any questions you might have. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.